right, we're here with Anthony Young at Met Fantasy Camp. AY, when you come back here, this is where it all starts, right? What's your initial reaction? First of all, being around guys that it all started with almost together. When you're here with Hilly and Pete Shirk, and you walk out of the complex and you see the fields, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, I'll tell you this. My first spring training was 1988 when the Mets got this complex. And walking out of here, I've been coming here with 7, 8 years now, and when I walk out of those doors, it was like I look over there at the big stadium, and like one day I want to be over there, And to work your way up through the Mets organization and make it to the big league, it was like this, like you said, this is where it all came from. It's like my dream came true right here.
And now to come back all these years later, after your career is over, and be reunited with those guys, is that bond still? Is that the time bond between? Will that always be something that runs between the three of you guys?
Of course. I mean, we keep in touch, throughout the off season. I talk to Pete, 6, 7, 8 times a year. Talk to Eric. We keep in touch. We text each other, see how each other's doing, and all this stuff. And we always have done that. Even when I got traded to Chicago and Pete went to Cincinnati, Eric went to Japan. When he came back into the States, we always kept in touch with each other.
And all these years later, to see Al Jackson, who also had a big hand in the three of you, your development, instructional league, going through the system. What's that like to come back, knowing that he was a big part of getting you guys to the pros as well, and being able to talk to him again?
Well, it's always a pleasure talking to Al, because when I was leaving out of college, I threw hard, never knew where the ball was going, and Al was my first pitching coach. So he straighten out my mechanics, and I, give him the biggest thing of getting my mechanics the right where they should be to make it that far. Al, I looked up to Al like he was the man. He the one really did it for me. And then after Al passed me along the Bob Apodaca and the Mel Stuttermeyer, I had some great pitching coaches here with the Mets.
The interesting part is that after all these years, when you walk out of the clubhouse, there's still guys coming with the pictures and the autographs. Now, a lot of people have said the hardest part for an athlete is when the cheering stops. And how interesting is it for you, knowing that all these guys have come down, a lot of them grew up watching you, some of them were already older, but still went to the stadium, and there's still people that, big Anthony Young fans, and come out there with the baseball cards and the photos. What does that make you feel like when they're asking you for the autographs all these years later?
It still feels great. I believe I get more autographs now than I did when I was playing, It make you feel like, you wanted it. And I heard I was a big request of keep coming back to the fantasy camp, so it makes me feel good knowing that the New Yorkers still love me and stuff. So I feel great about that.
Now, obviously, when everyone talks about Anthony Young, they talk about that record, but also on the flip side, and we've spoken to Eric Hillman and Pete Shirk, those Mets were not the greatest offensive team, not the best defensive team. In fact, if I'm correct, during that streak, you won Pitcher of the Month, not winning a game, which is unprecedented. I don't think it's ever happened for a starting pitcher in baseball to win Pitcher of the Month, not winning a game. How mentally tough did you have to be to go through that, not only as professional and a competitor, but under the microscope of New York as well?
Well, when I first made it to New York, I heard that the fans are hard and all of this, and I just used the way I was brought up to treat the people in New York. I was nice to everybody, tried to do interviews whenever I could. I never was the type to try to curse people out, be mean to anyone, and I think that's how I made it through that, because people actually, kept me and cheered for me. Even when, I was going through the losing streak, I'd come on the field, everybody would, give me standing ovations and stuff like that, so that really helped me.
If I remember correctly, and I'm getting old, so I'm not sure if I remember this, I might be just imagining it. During that streak, you were also on David Letterman, right?
No, I was on Jay Leno.
Jay Leno.
Jay
right.
Leno.
What was that like? As going through this losing streak, and then you get a call, we'd like you on Jay Leno. What went through your mind when you got that phone call?
It was, I got in a couple of night shows. Arsenio Hall also called, but he wanted me to come fly to California to be like a standby. If somebody didn't show up, then I go on. But Jay called and said I had a spot on the show, so I flew down there and did the interview. And he came in the green room and told me, you know, he gonna make jokes about the losing streak and all that. And if I wanted to, I can talk about his chin and all that. But I didn't, you know. I'm not the type of person, you know, because I know the losing streak that I went through. Like I tell everybody, I went through the losing streak, but I still to this day don't think I deserve that losing streak,
No,
you know?
absolutely
Because
not.
I know I pitched some games that I should have won. I also pitched some games that I know I should have lost. But I don't think it should have been 27 in a row, you know?
Absolutely.
So, you know, it was good.
And the underlying theme here, obviously, we just spoke to Eric Hillman a little while ago. We're talking about the Hall of Fame vote. A lot of controversy in baseball. A lot of fans were in uproar that the Baseball Writers of America chose not to vote anyone in. What was your feeling when you heard about the vote?
Well, then, you know, with the Bonds and the Clemens and the Sosa, I totally agree. You know, I mean, if they cheated, I don't think they should get in the first time. Don't get me wrong, all three of them are great players. But, you know, make them suffer a little bit. You know, make them realize what they did was wrong. But, I mean, I'm from Houston, and I thought Biggio would have got in. He was, Biggio was a big-time player. Houston loves him, and he was the closest one to getting in, and I wish he would have.
As a pitcher, do you feel some sort of vindication that these guys didn't get in? I mean, obviously, guys that took it in your era, and if you didn't take it and you're a pitcher, they had an unfair advantage. Looking back now, do you feel cheated in some ways that guys were juicing?
Well, I feel cheated, even with the cork bat, because my last year with Houston, I remember, I'm not gonna call out the player name, but I remember him hitting the home run against me in the Astrodome, and they left Houston and went to their next trip, and he got caught for a cork bat. And I came in I was the setup man, and gave up like a 2-run bomb, and come to find out he was using a cork bat. So I feel like he used the cork bat to hit the home run to take the lead in that game. So I don't know, but like I say, if they cheated, I think they need to wait a year or 2 or 3 or whatever it takes to get in. But I think all three of them deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but just not on the first ballot.
And lastly, I know that you run a facility in Houston and with Rodney. You come here, you're coming from working with kids,
Right.
And then you come here to work with the older guys.
Right.
Is that thread the way baseball used to be for youth and connecting generation to generation? I mean, you would probably see it more than anyone else between the youth that you've trained and the guys that come down here. What does a camp like this say about the health of baseball?
I mean, it's great. These guys here, so some of them, you got some good athletes here that's, like you say, that's older. But even when I was growing up, and Pete and Eric and Kevin Baez, we giving back to what we never got. I didn't get a pitching coach until Al Jackson. And I went to 3 years of college and pitched in college. I didn't know how to pitch. So now I'm teaching kids the proper way of doing that, and hopefully, they can go further than I did, Not to be bragging, but I had a kid that I'd been giving pitching lessons to. He was in the second round of the Blue Jays 2 years ago. My nephew went in the first round of Pittsburgh this year. He played for me in the select baseball back home in Houston. So, when you teach them a proper way of doing it, and they go off to college and all that, when the coaches are working on something, trying to teach them something, they already know how to do it, it make them look good and make me look good.
So in college, there was no pitching coach whatsoever?
You had a pitching coach, but like I say, I threw hard. And I never knew where the ball was going. When I started a game in college, this is the God honest truth, I would start a game, and when I get on the mound and start the game, they would have somebody already warming up, because they never know if I was going to throw strikes in.
Not the most confidence-inducing thing to look over your shoulder and start the game, see the guy up in the pen.
Already warming up. Yeah. Because, I started the game, I struck out 13 or 14 one game. The next game, I probably walked 5 or 6 and couldn't get out the first, second inning. So they never knew what they were going to get. But when I got there, Jack Jurinsky, he got me drafted. And the first thing when I signed, he said, go down there, show Al Jackson how hard you can throw, try to throw the ball through the wall, and he would straighten out your mechanics, and that's what he did.
Favorite part about Fantasy Week for you?
Coming down here, having fun with I done met so many friends doing this over the years, and seeing my teammates. I mean, seeing the guys that you play with seeing the older guys that you watch play, like the 86 guys. I was still in college when WLIE and Tim Tuffle and Doc. I would have never thought that I would play and be on the same pitching staff with Doc. It's outstanding.
Always a pleasure.
All right, here.